Hi! Alright, so in this video we're going to talk about what's going on in the very earliest period of human occupation in Greece. We're going to just spend just a couple minutes on it because it's not really that interesting to us in this course. So, human beings have settled in Greece for tens of thousands of years. They've just been kicking around for a very, very long time, but a large part of that period occurs during the early Stone Age. So it is before real true civilizations emerge. So I wanted to start by talking a little bit about what we mean by the Stone Age. So the Stone Age is the time period in which human beings relied largely on stone tools. And we divide the Stone Age into three periods. The Paleolithic, which means the Old Stone Age, the Mesolithic, the Middle Stone Age, and the Neolithic, which is the New Stone Age. So, when we talk about the Paleolithic, we're talking about a very long period of time. It goes back as early as human beings have been using stone tools, we'll say around 200,000 BC. It's actually much longer, but people haven't been in Greece that long. And it goes up until about 10,000 BC. In the Mesolithic period, people continued to use stone tools, although there's some new patterns in the types of stone tools they're using and the types of hunting and foraging they're doing. Nothing so significant that it really matters to us. But in Greece, this Mesolithic period lasts from about 10,000 to 7,000 BC. What's much more significant is the Neolithic, because the Neolithic is marked by the introduction of agriculture into Greece. Now, agriculture is not discovered independently in Greece, probably. Instead, what seems much more likely is that they learned about agriculture and also livestock raising, right, animals and things like that, from their neighbors to the Near and Middle East, where agriculture was in fact discovered independently. And we can tell this because we have the same types of plants and animals popping up in Greece as popped up there, so probably these things were traded along or introduced along the way as people moved to the west, and they eventually reached Greece. So this happens around 7,000 BC, and the Neolithic here we'll say lasts from about 7,000 to 3,000 BC. In Greece. So the Neolithic represents a humongous and fundamental change in the way that human beings lived their lives. In the Paleolithic and Mesolithic period, human beings were living in very small groups of like 20 to 50 people. They were hunter-gatherers, so they hunted animals, they foraged for their food. They frequently were nomadic, they were on the move because they had to follow the herds and they had to go to different places in different parts of the year to find sources of food. And so when we get agriculture, that's a very different way of life. If you want to engage in any kind of agricultural activity, you plant crops, you tend to the crops, you reap the crops, all in one place. So the first big difference is that people settle down. You have to settle in one place if you're going to have crops and livestock that you're looking after. And so the Neolithic period is marked by the emergence of these small farming settlements. Now, I say small, they're still larger than the Paleolithic hunter-gatherer groups, but somewhere on the range of a couple hundred people might be living in one of these villages. There's a bit of a population boom, which just occurs because you're settled and there's more of a reliable access to food throughout the year. So yeah, we have these small farming settlements. And I say farming because they are now engaged in agriculture and the raising of livestock. This does not mean they stop hunting or gathering. That's still probably a significant part of their activity and diet. It's just that farming now supplements that to be a more reliable source of food. A lot of these early farming settlements in the Neolithic period appear in the region of Thessaly. So if you remember from our map of Greece, Thessaly is in northern Greece, and it has a nice large plain there, which is rare in the Greek world, right? A nice big plain where agriculture is possible. And so we have examples of settlements starting around 6,000 BC. We have sites like Sesklo and Dimony, which have been uncovered, and which show this pattern of Neolithic life. They're using stone tools still. It's still one of these lithic periods, one of these Stone Age periods, and that means they're still using stone tools. Weaving and pottery making, though, are starting to occur, so we're beginning to see new crafts developing. The other thing we can note about these kind of settlements that we find is that they seem to be egalitarian. And what do we mean by that? Well, we mean that there doesn't seem to be a lot of social distinction, different classes. We don't have a sense that there is a very elaborate system of rule or law, anything like that. And we make these conclusions because within a settlement like Sesklo, we have a lot of houses that are all the same size, that have the same sort of assemblage of material goods, right? No one has anything that's significantly bigger or better or nicer than anyone else. And so probably since they're so small, and probably a lot of people are related to each other, it's fairly easy for them to keep the peace and to make decisions about what to do as a community without the need for any kind of really big hierarchy or complex structure. That being said, there may have been some kind of what we call a headman or a chief, maybe an elder or a person who is seen as someone who might settle disputes or make decisions when decisions couldn't be made by the community as a whole. That's possible. It's just very difficult to reconstruct given what evidence we have. Okay, so that's our Stone Age in Greece. Now, by the 4th millennium BC, we know that ancient humans began to work in metallurgy, right? Getting metals and forming them and molding them into tools and equipment and jewelry and things like that. And they start with copper, because copper is pretty easy to melt into shape. But one of the drawbacks of copper is that it's really soft, right? And so it doesn't make for the best tools. And it's closer to about 3000 BC when people realize, oh, if we add another metal in, just a little bit of another metal like zinc or tin, to copper, we'll make something stronger. This is called an alloy when you mix the metals together. And when you mix copper and tin together, you make bronze, which is a much stronger metal and better suited to a lot of tasks. And so this discovery of bronze happens around 3000 BC. And again, it happens outside of Greece and probably is introduced to Greece from the Middle or Near East. So around 3000 BC, we make the switch from the Neolithic period into what we call the Bronze Age, because our main type of tool is now made of bronze instead of stone. And actually, that's not exactly correct. Probably it took a while for bronze to really replace stone. Probably people were using stone tools for quite a while. But as soon as bronze gets introduced, we say this is the beginning of the Bronze Age. Now, the Bronze Age we divide into 3 mini periods, the early, middle, and late Bronze Age. So in Greece, the early Bronze Age goes from about 3000 to 2100 BC. The middle Bronze Age goes from 2100 to 1600 BC. And the late Bronze Age goes from about 1600 to 1100 BC. And it will end with the introduction of iron as the main metal for the creation of tools. Now, if you remember back to our discussion of Greek geography, Greece doesn't have a lot of metal resources. There isn't really copper and tin to be had in Greece. So if you want bronze and to make tools and equipment and things like that, you need to import it. You need to go somewhere or to have it brought to you from somewhere. And that requires resources, right? There has to be some kind of surplus of resources that you can use to trade or to finance this kind of expedition. And so people who could acquire bronze were people who had more. And bronze becomes a marker. It becomes a kind of a divider of the society into a kind of elite which had more wealth and therefore could afford the bronze. And the bronze can actually serve as a prestige marker, right? The owning of bronze shows that you are of a better class. And then the commoners. So the Bronze Age in Greece is where we begin to see societies develop a kind of social hierarchy of an elite and a lower or common class. Now, we can see this, for instance, at the site of Lerna. Lerna is in the Peloponnese, so in southern Greece, and it is the site of a place called the House of Tiles. So I did want to add just one PowerPoint slide into this, so I've drawn the layout of the archaeological site for the House of Tiles. So at this site, we find a monumental building. This is a very large building. It is not simply someone's home. And so this is very different from the Neolithic period where all the homes were the same size. There weren't any kind of big public buildings. And so this has multiple rooms. It has storage areas. Some of these small corridors really serve as storage closets, essentially. It was 2 stories originally. I've also drawn a bit of a reconstruction. So it was originally 2 stories. It had this nice big kind of monumental entrance. It had balconies. These are meant to be balconies here. Not the best drawer. So yeah, it was a big public building, a monumental building for the period. Now, it's debated what its function was. There are a couple of ideas. One, that it is a feasting hall, and there's some sense that it might be the discovery of the kind of tools you would use if you were going to serve food or eat food have been found there. One suggests it was used for communal storage, so everyone kept their excess here and then could go and get it when they needed to, and the existence of all the storage closets essentially also suggests that might be possible. Another guess is this is the home of a sort of elite chieftain. Again, that is also possible. The reality is there's not enough material evidence from the House of Tiles to conclusively say it's one or the other, and it may be all three. It may be that the chief lived here, and they held feasts here, and it was used for communal storage, right? So it could be one, two, or three of those, or it could be all three of those at once. But at any rate, the House of Tiles in Lerna suggests this development that's happening in the early Bronze Age, that now we have places in Greece where a bit of social structure is starting to emerge. And again, it's probably based on people who have wealth in the form of surplus goods and have the ability to access high status goods like bronze. Now, Lerna as a site is destroyed around 2250 BC, and a number of other early Bronze Age sites in southern and central Greece are also destroyed around that same time. And some scholars believe that this is due to the invasion of a new group of people known as the Indo-Europeans. This is the one word I did not write up here yet. So the Indo-Europeans are a group of tribes who ultimately come probably from modern Ukraine region, and who settled throughout Europe and modern Iran, Persia area, into northern India as well. And so a group of these Indo-Europeans may have reached Greece at this time and destroyed some of the settlements, settled and intermingled with the native people there. And so this may explain this kind of break that kind of marks the end of the early Bronze Age and then shows us the beginning of the Middle Bronze Age. Okay, so we're going to stop there. In our next video, we're going to talk about the Middle Bronze Age, which in Greece sees the rise of the first major civilization of the Greek world, the Minoans. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.